Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to today's press conference. We're on a fairly tight schedule, and it's a very exciting piece of news. So what I'll do is move directly into the speech of Vice President Kroes, announcing the winners of the Research Award for the FET Flagship program. And then we will hear more from the actual scientists and technical experts after you've heard from Mrs. Kroes and you have seen videos explaining a bit of the science. So over to you now, Neelie.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm completely puzzled, for I got a little bit of explanation just before the start of this session of all those wise people. And I thought that I got it a little bit, but I'm lost, so to say. So don't ask me too difficult questions, so to say. I'm very flattered that two Nobel Prize winners are in our midst. Professor Konstantin Novoselov, sorry for the pronunciation, and Professor Thorsten Wiesel, and all those who are involved in the project. And what we are discussing today, and you can imagine that you made my day, for it's not about the euro, it's not about speeches of leaders, of members of the family. It is talking about a great issue where Europe is performing and where Europe's future is in good hands, so to say. We have a long supported top quality research and innovation, no doubt about that. And that is, of course, essential to fertilize the green shoots of economic growth. And that is what we are looking for. So an important day, no doubt, an important day for European science, an important day of the position of Europe in the world. We are announcing our biggest research cash award ever. And it is talking about 1 billion euros each for two excellent projects. Europe is the home of modern scientific excellence. And those fundamental and transformative initiatives will help put us back in the driver's seat again. We have been in the driver's seat. We are quite often the starting point, so to say, and this could be the back in driver's seat position. This program is like the X factor for science, if you allow me to be a bit populistic. 23 proposals, and then a short list of 6, and now 2 winners. And the winners were selected by a panel of 25 experts, including leading scientists, professors, Nobel Prize winner, and industrialists. So the 2 new winners will now become large pan-European programs. And I'd like to welcome their leaders on the stage with me. One of the 2 winners is for research into graphene. Please join me, for you did the job, and you are doing the job. You are not finalized yet. This is something that you have to explain, but it is indeed, for me, one of those propositions where we perhaps can just show that at the end of the day, it is Graphene Valley in Europe. And that is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. This is an example. This is an example of graphene produced in Europe, a 12-inch wafer of CVD-grown graphene produced by the Ekstrom company, I think in Cambridge, the UK. And this is a starting point for graphene-based electronics.
Well, so just going on, and I would love if you stand, for then you can answer the difficult questions later on, so to say. It is likely to replace many uses for silicon and other materials, and transforming not just electronics, but material science, energy, transport or health, and you can make a long list out of that. The story of graphene, it also shows that there is still wonder in science. It is a miracle, in my opinion. And producing a revolutionary material using just a pencil and Scotch tape. That was your explanation to me. Could you believe it? And just a few years later, it's on the verge of spawning a new industry. So again, repeating myself, this can be a graphene valley, and in Europe to be home to the successor of Silicon Valley. Which region in Europe wants to be known as Graphene Valley? That is the question. And that's the €1 billion question, and I'm putting to you today. So please do your utmost. It is fascinating to be the Graphene Valley in Europe. Congratulations, Professor Jari Kinarit of Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden. And the video is...
Now it's time for our first video. So I think what we need to do is step away so that you have a good sight of it, and it just runs for a couple of minutes explaining graphene.
The Simple Show explains graphene. This is graphene. Let's call him Mr. G. He is the first material that is two-dimensional. This gives him a unique set of properties. Since 1859, many scientists were looking for graphene using complex experiments. But the first crystals of graphene were discovered in 2004 using a very simple and effective method, namely ordinary Scotch tape. During Friday evening experiments in Manchester, scientists noticed small parts of graphene on the tape used to clean a graphite stone. The two scientists, Andrei Geim and Konstantin Novoselov, were awarded with the Nobel Prize in Physics 2010 for this simple but groundbreaking experiment. Thanks to the Scotch tape method, this area of science grew extremely quickly, and today hundreds of laboratories all over the world deal with different aspects of G research. What makes Mr. G a really super material is the combination of his unique properties. G is the first 2D crystal ever known to us, the thinnest object ever obtained, and also the lightest one. G is the world's strongest material, harder than diamond and about 300 times stronger than steel. G conducts electricity, much better than copper. G is a transparent material. G is bendable and can take any form you want. And this unique supermaterial gave birth to a new class of crystals that also are just 1 atom thin. And what's more fantastic is that these can be shuffled with each other to engineer new materials on demand to meet the special needs of different industries. All these factors moved graphene swiftly from the G Research Laboratory to the G Marketplace, driven by demand from industries where such supermaterials are required. Aerospace, automotive, electronics, energy storage, coatings and paints, communications, sensor, solar, oil, etc. Thanks to mass production methods intensively being developed, expect to meet Mr. G in person soon. Get more information at graphene-flagship.eu.
And this is one winner. The other winner is the Human Brain Project. Fundamental research that will show us how the brain works. We know so little about the brain, but we know it affects so much about our health and about our well-being. Through incredible simulations, this project will help us find new ways to diagnose and treat brain conditions, even opening the door to a new kind of computer. A computer that links and thinks and works the way we do. So congratulations, Professor Henry Markram of the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne. I suspect your brain would be harder to model than the average one. So please explain a little bit what you try to do, but it's heavy compared to that one.
So this is what we call a neuromorphic computing system. This is what we call a neuromorphic computing system. And what we'll be able to do in this project is to build very detailed brain models on supercomputers and simplify them and simplify parts of them and print them on silicon so that we can capture some fundamental features of how the brain computes. And we're aiming for neuromorphic computing systems to become fundamentally integrated into computers of the future.
Why not join the two really whiskets, so to say? Well,
And maybe if you stand a bit over here. It's better.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
further away.
Further away.
but
Do you want
Over here in this empty space.
Okay. No, you need to choreograph it more carefully.
okay. Well, impressed enough. Now I'm continuing my story. Again, the short list of 6 initiatives was very strong, each one promising groundbreaking new discoveries, and I hope that all of them will find other forms of support and continue.
We have the video.
The video for Professor Markham. Let's first look at that one.
A 100 billion neurons connected by 100,000 billion synapses. The human brain is the most complex machine we know of, and the most mysterious one. Brain diseases have become an immense burden in the Western world. In Europe, they cost more than heart diseases, cancer, and diabetes all put together. European researchers propose a radically new approach to study the human mind. Their idea is simple: to simulate a complete human brain in a supercomputer.
What we are proposing is to establish a radically new foundation to explore and understand the brain, its diseases, and to use that knowledge to build new computing technologies.
The researchers will systematically study neurons, the building blocks of the brain. They will collect and consolidate all the biological data produced by scientists around the world. They will integrate this knowledge into a massive simulation running on a supercomputer. The result will be the most accurate model of the human brain ever produced. The simulation of a complete human brain will require supercomputers that are 1,000 times more powerful than today. By understanding how cognition works, it will help to design radically new devices called Neuromorphic Computers. They will combine the power of microelectronics with the flexibility of human intelligence.
I'm really thrilled to help neuroscience to have a more coordinated effort, to understand the brain and to exploit the brain, to really use what's in the brain in computational principles and to derive new technologies.
The Human Brain Project brings together hundreds of scientists from leading European research institutions. It is one of the most ambitious neuroscience projects in the world.
By putting so many different people together and making such a big community, such a big project, we can do things we could never do with any other smaller scale project.
The Human Brain Project will put Europe at the forefront of neuroscience. It will deliver new strategies to fight brain diseases, and it will revolutionize electronics. But first of all, it will offer a revolutionary new tool to study the most mysterious phenomenon of the universe, the human brain.
So, starting again with mentioning that these are really the winners, no doubt about that. But the team that was taking the judgment was announcing again when we were discussing the result that also the other ones were quite impressive. So it's not a matter of it is 2 and then we stop. Not at all. It was a difficult exercise, but these were and are the best out of the shortlist of the 6 initiatives, and the 6 were indeed the shortlist out of 23 proposals. I sincerely hope that all the other ones, that they will find other form of support and continue. Don't give up. 1 is the winner, and in this case 2 are the winners, and that's it. But it's not meaning that it's not worthwhile. On the contrary, each member of the shortlist gets my full congratulations and admiration. Total EU support will be worth around 1 billion euros over 10 years, matched by the same amount for member states, industry, and others. So we are not talking about coffee money, so to say. The EU's investment is large scale, but so is the challenge. But it is dwarfed by the potential payoff. And make no mistake, it is innovation that drives growth. And in these economic doldrums, this is exactly the investment we should focus on. We are bringing society and technology together to answer Europe's challenges. And we are working across borders because we achieve more when we work together as one Europe. The winners work with 161 partners from 25 countries. EU funding helps them work together, complement each other, and achieve more. Those benefits, that EU added value, apply not just to graphene and the human brain project. They apply to the many projects already funded under the EU's research and innovation program. And for the 80 billion euros we have proposed for Horizon 2020, the next framework program for research and innovation. And that investment is an economic imperative. And I hope that member states will do the right thing for Europe's future when discussing the Union's budget next week. Leaders need to ask what they want their future economy to look like. We are talking about the future economy for Europe. And the work of the 2 winners and 6 shortlisted projects give us rather a good idea. Today is about finding new products, new solutions, new opportunities that benefit every European. So today there aren't just 2 winners. There are 500 million winners. Thank you.
And so now we move straight into questions, and effectively they'll operate in 2 parts. So if you have any more general or political questions, that's for Vice President Kroes. And if you want to know more about the actual projects or the science behind the projects, then I'll leave them for another 5 minutes, and we'll take that as part of what we've been referring to as the technical briefing. So I've got over here on the right, then Martina, and then my Spanish friend down the front, and then we'll go up the back. So you first, sir. Isabelle, sorry, please.
Oui, Isabelle Horry, Radio-Télévision Suisse. Je voulais savoir, est-ce que ce n'est pas un peu paradoxal que cette plus grande bourse jamais attribuée par l'Union européenne soit attribuée notamment à un projet dirigé par la Suisse qui n'est pas membre de l'Union européenne? Est-ce que vous craignez d'avoir quelques critiques des États membres de l'Union européenne?
Absolutely not. You are European, and Swiss is a European country. And what we are aware of is uniting our efforts, and especially talking about education and talking about research and innovation, we should indeed combine all our best talents. So I'm proud to mention that it is a united effort. And I can explain it to everyone. I think if we can be back in the driver's seat in both projects, we have excellent chances. Then I'm interested in the results and not in the passport.
And sorry, 1 second, Martina. There were 2 questions.
Oui, Madame la commissaire Alain Franco de la radio publique suisse, RTS. une question sur le financement, parce que jusqu'à présent, il n'y a qu'une toute petite partie, 54 millions, de cette enveloppe énorme qui est assurée. Alors, on parle beaucoup d'1 milliard, mais comment faire pour justement assurer ce budget, faire en sorte que ça ne se dilue pas? Vous avez lancé un appel aux États membres, ça prouve quelque part, je pense, que vous n'êtes pas sûr d'avoir la somme globale au final. Merci.
Well, as you know and as you are aware of, never get temptation away from this type of activities, and not only, by the way, this type of activities. We have been quite clear in addressing grand challenging topics with a chance of success, and that we are aware that that requires long-term sustained efforts, no doubt about that. We intend to fulfill our part of this equation out of Horizon 2020, and we are expecting member states and others to contribute as well. And of course, there will be careful monitoring during the lifetime of the projects to ensure an efficient use of taxpayers' money. So it is indeed a challenge for both of the parties, so to say, to be aware that it is taxpayers' money that we are talking of, so that we could prove that it is also later on that it is a worthwhile effort that we took, and that it is a worthwhile choice that we take today. And by the way, I get quite often when I'm visiting member states, and even if officials of the member states are visiting me, I quite often get the line, we want to be the Silicon Valley of Europe. And I'm always saying, don't copy another success, be yourself and try out. And here we do have, what I was mentioning earlier on, an excellent opportunity. And in both winners' portfolio, there are excellent opportunities to be the number one on a global scene.
Martina Herzog, German press agency DPA. It's a follow-up to my colleague's question. I see all the ambition, the necessity, all that, but still, can you promise the money today with MFF negotiations still coming up next week?
Normally spoken, yes. This is a priority of us, so to say, oblige, and oblige in this way. So I can be nearby certain that this will be filled in.
It was actually the same question on financing. Thank you so much.
Well,
I should also...
Perhaps I can add one line that you can even get more encouragement. It is anticipated that the flagship initiatives would be funded at about 50% level from the EU Research and Innovation Programme, and at a similar level through the national and the institutional fundings from the participants themselves. Member states and industry are funding as well in-kind contributions like infrastructures, computing resources, and so on. So I do have a good feeling. I'm repeating myself.
Sorry, there were two questions up the back, and then you, sir, in the second row. And then, so please.
Horst Bruder, Swiss Public Radio. Ms. Commissioner, what do you expect in return for this $500 million for this Swiss-led project by the Swiss government? What should be the participation the Swiss government injects?
Well, the rules of the game are the same for the member states of the European Union and other European countries that are involved.
If you have a follow-up question.
Yeah, could you elaborate? Which means maybe even in numbers?
Well, the same is not that difficult. If you are mentioning an amount of money, then the same is the equivalent.
Okay, over here, and then Martina will wait for your follow-up, and then... Yes, sorry, you sir in the middle, and then over here.
Olivier Dessibourg du journal Le Temps à Genève. J'ai une question en 2 parties peut-être. La première partie, c'est quels ont été les critères qui ont conduit au choix qui est celui d'aujourd'hui. Et la deuxième partie, elle est un peu plus élaborée. Si d'un côté, on a un projet extrêmement concret, qui est le graphène, où on sait exactement où on va sur 10 ans, où on est quasiment sûr à la fin d'avoir un résultat vraiment concret dans les mains avec des nouveaux microprocesseurs, je ne sais. D'un autre côté, on a le Human Brain Project qui est très ouvert, qui pose beaucoup de questions, qui va poser des questions au fur et à mesure qu'on avance dans le projet. J'aurais voulu savoir si ce choix vraiment à l'opposé, avec deux projets très, très différents, est aussi une manière de tester ce nouvel instrument qu'est le Flagship, peut-être pour des versions ou ultérieurement, après Horizon 2020. Dans quelle manière c'est aussi une manière de tester si c'est plus efficace de mettre beaucoup d'argent sur un projet extrêmement ouvert avec beaucoup de risques, ou beaucoup d'argent sur un projet extrêmement focalisé avec peu de risques quelque part.
Well, let me start with saying that risk is inherent on science and on research. For otherwise, it would have been done earlier on if there wasn't risk, so to say. And it has to be managed adequately, no doubt about that. I'm intrigued by those 2 backgrounds of the 2 winning projects, and rightly mentioned by you, you can even measure the graphene you can even show it in a way that I can explain it to citizens in Europe, but it is also very, very challenging, and certainly talking about the project that is at stake with the second winner, that it is connected with the brain. It's connected with the essential element of our human being. And I'm just harm me in for promoting your proposal, Professor. For I think when we are all aware that a lot of diseases that we are facing in an aging population are connected at the end of the day with our brains, that if this could be a solution for more opportunities in just linking the souls with a remedy, then I would be grateful with an open start of a project in which there is a perspective of tackling a lot of problems all over the place, so to say. So for me, flagships indeed have established risk management and contingency plans like any other large industrial or infrastructural program. And the integrated flagship approach is more efficient, by the way, than the alternative approach of spreading out the public funding thinly, which would lead to much lower impact when addressing grand challenges. And the sooner we can have a solution or a perspective on a solution, the better for me it is. And certainly talking about an aging population in Europe, and we are all aware of that. And it's not only an aging population over here, but I imagine that the outcome of this project is highly followed by other ones than researchers and innovators and industrialists and politicians within Europe. It is far larger at stake.
And if I could add just one semantic clarification, we very specifically didn't use the word prize in the press materials and in describing this, because a prize is often thought of as a bit of a blank check or something that you hand over without a consequence or a follow-up. And that is not the case here. It's an award, and there's specific contractual obligations that the project winners will have. And we probably need to go into those details with the policy experts who will be managing those contracts after we go off record, or when we go off record. But you can rest assured that there are those elements of financial management there. And if I can...
But Ryan, the award is not an Oscar, it is money. And it is money to continue the exercises. And that makes the most sense, I imagine. So normally spoken, the future of those projects when, number one, the team that is at stake should go around and collect money from different ones far more than now. It is a waste of their time, so to say, for you can use your efforts far better in going up as quickly as could be done to indeed give us to the guarantee that Europe is at stake and that Europe is not only involved in this type of project, but is taking the lead.
And then we come, you sir, and then we come to the follow-up questions.
And the lady.
Yes. Schmidt for Science magazine. I just have two questions about the funding, just looking for clarifications here. We've heard the number of 54 million for each project being mentioned a few times. I haven't seen actual confirmation that there's talk of 108 million over the course of 2.5 years. Is it clear that this will be split in the middle and it'll be 54 million for each project? That's question one. And the second question is the Commission funding conditional on member state funding? So in the future as well, in the next years, when we're talking about Horizon 2020, will the projects still receive the money even if they do not come up with matching funds from industry and national governments or whatever?
Starting with your last question, and it is a very personal one, and I didn't check it with my people, but I dare to say it is my personal point of view that there is a philosophy behind matching with member states in general. It's, by the way, not only with those flagships, it's with other projects too. But having said that, it shouldn't be a blocking of an initiative in a certain member state when it is connected with that member state, when for obvious reasons they couldn't match it. So I would be preferring to be a bit more flexible, but in itself it is great to have those combined efforts in making this true. With your first question, you have to make a difference between Horizon 2020 and the outcome of the discussion and what is at stake with the 54 million.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ana Pisonero from the Spanish news agency Europa Press. It's also on the financing. I understand that the Commission wants to give 500 million to each of the projects in a course of 10 years. The 54 for each project correspond to 2013 funds that we have now. And the matching effort by the member states would be another 500 million, I understand, each for the projects. And that means that indeed industry and academic, universities, etc., will make their contributions in kind with scientists, infrastructures, and the rest. Did we understand more or less the mechanism of the financing? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are much clearer in your explanation than I did, but that is indeed the answer to the gentleman before you.
Then we have Martina and then you, sir, in the structure.
Has anyone already committed funds to these projects? Member states?
Some. I thought that I could escape that one. I'm looking to Carl. Please.
Yeah, yes, I think we're now hitting the point of switching over to the technical questions and the details. So, no, you get the answer to your questions. Calm down, and you will get also the answer from Vice President Kroes.
So the truth, not the truth. That sounds as if there was no truth before. How this will work is that the projects themselves, the 54 million for each project in this year's budget, will be from the Commission. The partners in the projects, of course, will contribute to the money as well. So the projects overall are larger than 54 for the first 30 months. Where they get their money from obviously depends on who they are. Some of them are universities, public institutions, so there is public money on their side as well already. And then in addition to that, you have member states who contribute to this through other instruments which we have set up where they combine inside Europe and pool money to support these two flagships. And that, of course, is a route we want to support and pursue also for the coming few years. And the grant agreements are not signed yet, therefore it's not very easy to give you a whole list with every country and every piece of money there. Obviously, we have some statistics as to what concerns the shares of each country that are already present by way of the partners. And I think there, Wolfgang, you have more of the details that we could bring up at this point.
Different. So David McAwee from Euractiv, we just submitted a proposal on policy modeling, topic which is slightly different, more practical. I was wondering, Commissioner Kroes, if you could elaborate a little bit on how those two projects fit into the long-term policy strategy you have, and specifically the digital agenda.
So close to the digital agenda in itself. And just to take a couple of elements out of the digital agenda, I always explain that my portfolio is a horizontal one. It's connected with all those other sectors. If we are talking about graphene, and you were seeing that on the film, that is connected with transport, it's connected with energy, it's connected with whatever. So all those issues are linked within the digital agenda. By the way, talking about an aging population and talking about e-health and talking about all those issues, here we are. It is connected. There are a couple of reasonings for the jury to make this real pick out. But I'm feeling very comfortable with those two winners because it's so closely connected. I can explain it to my neighbor, so to say.
Shall I come back to the previous question on the support from member states? We have done calculations, for example, that regarding graphene, already per year in the European Union is around 50 million euro per year invested. There are a number of countries that have very significant programs. There was recently a commitment and an announcement by the UK. They have already totally invested £60 million. We know there are programs in Sweden, in Denmark. We have received commitment letters by Italy, for example, what they would support over the lifetime of the projects by France. I think very significant commitments. If you look to the to the Human Brain Project, you may see, for example, the investments done in Germany in supercomputing in other countries. There are 4 supercomputing centers, which is quite an expensive infrastructure on which this project relies. And there's been very significant investment. So this is not just an investment by Switzerland. This is actually a shared investment over Europe. I don't have the figures at hand, but maybe Henry or Karl-Heinz could correct or give additional details on the figures. Shall we move on?
Well, the gentlemen themselves can already show up and say, with their different nationalities, but in common, all Europeans, that they are uniting their efforts over the place.
Okay. Now, we have got Commissioner Malmström, who's coming down at 12 o'clock to the press room. So just warning that we are running out of time here. Have we got any last immediate questions? There's an opportunity to ask more technical questions. Will be outside of the press room with the members of the 2 initiatives that have won the award. But have you got any final questions before we leave the podium? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll do our very best to answer the more detailed questions you've got off the stage now.